everybody, I'm Lara Trump coming to you from Studio 45 at Trump Tower in New York City. Free speech rights are under assault each and every day. But Donald Trump and Mike Pence are fighting against the left's attempts to eliminate fundamental liberties in America. Joining me to discuss the war against free speech by the left is the president of Liberty University, Jerry Falwell Jr. Jerry, thank you so much for joining me. First time on our show. Welcome, and we're so excited to have you.
Honored to be with you, Laura. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Thank you. Now, President Trump recently issued an executive order to hold universities accountable for free speech on campuses, and he's now warning internet and social media companies against banning conservatives. I mean, Jerry, these are really dangerous assaults on our liberties, and thank God the president has finally stood up and said we need to do something about this, don't you think?
Absolutely. I was there the day he signed the executive order for free speech on campuses, and in fact, I was sitting right across the desk from him, and he did the right thing. College campuses, you know, it used to be when I went to Liberty in the early 80s and went to UVA Law School in the mid 80s. And it used to be that liberals like Alan Dershowitz, who just spoke here recently, would say that I may not agree with you, but I'll die for your right to say it.
Right.
And he still says that. And Alan said on our stage a few weeks ago and said, I'm here and I think the world will be surprised to hear that I'm reporting that there's more diversity of viewpoint at Liberty University than at Harvard University, and he taught there for 50 years. So it's really it's shifted. They used to be, you know, liberals were the defenders of free speech, and ACLU as well, but now it's almost like they've become authoritarian figures where, you know, if you say anything we don't agree with, then they label you whatever, phobe, you know.
Of course. That's all they have. That's all they have left. You're right, though, and I actually am glad to hear that Alan Dershowitz is recognizing Liberty University, because with free speech under such attack, you have actually set Liberty University apart as a place where diverse viewpoints are very welcome. Tell me why you think he said that. Why is Liberty so much more diverse in viewpoints than a Harvard?
Well, you know, Liberty is very conservative. You don't have to be a conservative politically to attend here, just like you don't have to be liberal to attend Harvard. But we do attract a lot of conservatives. But when we have speakers like Jimmy Carter, Bernie Sanders, Alan Dershowitz, last week we had the former chief of disguise from the CIA come in, and she disguised my wife and me.
Oh, I saw that. That was amazing. How cool.
As cafeteria workers, and none of the students noticed it was us.
Oh, wow.
So, but she's made it clear she's politically liberal. But our students treat all the speakers with respect, the same respect they treat the conservative speakers. And we invite many more, but a lot of them won't come. And it's a shame, but that's what college is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about academic freedom. It's supposed to be about the free expression of ideas, whatever they might be. And I had a student tell me when I was working in the cafeteria that day that she was from Colorado. She was planning to attend a public school in Colorado or Kansas, but she started applying and found out they had speech codes that she would have to live by if she went there. Certain things she just couldn't say. And she said, that's the reason I came to Liberty, because I want to be able to say what I think and not be ridiculed for it and not be chastised. And so it's really, the reason Liberty has prospered so much the last 15 years is because we've gone against the trend, and we've been the alternative to this politically correct indoctrination by the academic world. And you know, you'd think they would figure out that that's why we're passing them in every metric, athletics, academically, financially, but they don't think like business people. They don't. They just don't understand it. They're so. The faculty has tenure, and they're so snobby. They think they're above treating students like customers. They think that it's demeaning to do online education for adults, and it's good because it's not traditional classroom education. And you know, we've last 15 years have just passed them all by because we we don't look at it that way.
Well, kudos to you guys. I mean, you're doing obviously quite a bit right at Liberty, and really you're a model for what other universities really should aspire to. In fact, you're such a model university that you just hosted Vice President Mike Pence as the 2019 Liberty University commencement speaker.
Some of the loudest voices for tolerance today have little tolerance for traditional Christian beliefs. So as you go about your daily life, just be ready. Because you're going to be asked not just to tolerate things that violate your faith, you're going to be asked to endorse them. You're going to be asked to bow down to the idols of the popular culture. So you need to prepare your minds for action, men and women. You need to show that we can love God and love our neighbor at the same time.
It was such an honor to have him here, and it was a wonderful day. And we had President Trump 2 years ago, we had President Jimmy Carter last year, and now to follow up with the Vice President is something that it really humbles us, and it was an honor. And he's such a wonderful person, and he's so measured in his temperament and his words. He's somebody that our whole community really admire.
Now, you've actually called the Vice President a hero to Christian conservatives. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, he's a lot like President Trump. He's pragmatic, but he also understands that the average American, and that includes all the evangelicals, most of them, the average American has been ignored and forgotten by the establishment Republicans and Democrats, and they finally have woken up, and they've realized for years they voted for Republicans on social issues, but they realized that they were being betrayed and there was never going to be any change on social issues, so they stopped voting on social issues, and now they vote on the same issues that all the other working class Democrats and working class Republicans vote on: bringing jobs back to the United States, immigration. We got to close that southern border. It's drugs, human trafficking, all kinds of criminals coming across, and those are the issues now that motivate evangelicals. It used to be social issues, but the Republicans were talking a big game, but they didn't really mean it, and so.
When you look at Vice President Mike Pence, too, something that always strikes me about him is he's unapologetic when it comes to his religious beliefs. And he's very happy to share his thoughts on the fact that he's a Christian and a proud Christian. And I think it's actually very refreshing, because normally I feel the mainstream media sort of encourages people to hide the way they feel when it comes to that. If you, no matter what your belief, you really are encouraged, especially these days. Sometimes as a Christian, I feel like you're really you don't see so many people coming out like Mike Pence and embracing that and talking about it and making other people feel like it's okay to say you're a Christian and you believe in God and Jesus. And that's one thing when it comes to Vice President Mike Pence that I have found incredibly impressive and really quite refreshing.
It really is, and I really think Mike Pence was one of the key factors in bringing a lot of evangelicals over in the last election. But he also recognizes that we're not a theocracy, and it's funny to hear some of these liberals talk about how we need to let people come in illegally because it's the Christian thing to do. Back in the 80s, I remember when conservative Christians like my father were pro-life and pro-traditional family, all you heard from the left was, you can't legislate morality. You can't legislate morality. Now you have Nancy Pelosi wanting to legislate morality.
Yeah, isn't it funny?
And they want to use Christianity as an excuse to tax your neighbor to help the poor, when Jesus clearly taught it's our job to help the poor. It's not our job to vote for somebody who's going to take money from our neighbor and help the poor. So it's just comical to see that change over the last 30 or 40 years, and I'm old enough to remember all that. But it's and Alan Dershowitz agrees with me on that. He and I had a good conversation about that on stage, and he's noticed the hypocrisy as well.
Oh God, he's very impressive to hear him talk. I don't think the Democrats like him very much anymore, Jerry, because he's calling him out on everything.
Well, he's not a conservative, but he's at least he's intellectually honest,
Yes.
and I think that's what they can't stand anymore.
I know, it's the truth. Now, when you issued back in 2016, Jerry, your historic endorsement of Donald Trump, really pretty early on, many other Christian leaders followed your lead. Have they come back to you and said, you know what, you were right about this guy, he's a pretty good president?
It's funny. Some of the top evangelicals who were supporting Cruz, through the campaign, I run into them every now and then in Washington. I won't name any names, but these are the top of the top. And I say, are you still mad at me for supporting Trump? And they say, Jerry, you were right. We're sorry. And so he's the most faith-friendly president we've ever had. And he, we all have our flaws and shortcomings, everybody. And so, it's so wonderful to finally have somebody in there with some backbone and with some guts, and just somebody who's willing to say what's not popular to say, because it's true.
It's like tough love, right? It's like being a parent in a way. It's tough love. Sometimes you don't want to hear it, but you need to hear it, and it's for your own good. And I feel like that's the way this president is leading our country. It's very interesting.
And people admire him for that. They really do. They see that, and they're no longer fooled by the media. I think they see through the media, I hate to say it, but the BS that they've been hearing for decades, and they've gotten wise to it. And so when they hear somebody like President Trump come in and speak the truth, I'm telling you, he's going to win by a landslide in 2020.
I agree with you, Jerry.
Opinion.
I say that all the time. I think he's going to win by so much more in 2020 than 2016.
Because so many people who were thinking I was a little nuts for supporting him are now 100% on board.
Well, now they came back and said you were right, which is amazing, and they see it. And even the ones that, by the way, probably didn't tell you you're right and that they should have listened to you, they're still going to go in and they're going to vote for Donald Trump. I fully believe that.
This university, I was a lawyer here for 20 years. My father and I struggled to keep the bills paid. We learned how to operate frugally. And that was the reason I supported him, because the country has been mismanaged fiscally for so long, and I knew we needed a businessman at the helm, because a businessman, a CEO, the first thing on their minds is what's in the best interest of the organization I'm leading. And that's exactly what he did with this country. He came in and said, look, it's not my job to help the rest of the world. It's my job to do what's best for this country. The American people are the most charitable people in the world. They can help the other people in need, and that's what we do here at Liberty University. We emphasize that with our students. But that's our job individually. It's not the government's job.
Yeah, you got that right. Now, I'm glad you, a few minutes ago, you brought up the media, because we know they can't help themselves. In fact, last week, you tweeted a joke that President Trump deserves 2 extra years to make up for the Russia collusion hoax. And the media went totally nuts when the president then retweeted your tweet. I mean, do they not have a sense of humor, Jerry? What do you think is the problem?
The left, the people on the left seem to be miserable. They can't laugh at anything, and it's. I think they want to spread that misery to the rest of us. My wife, when I'm not busy with Liberty University and I get a little bored on vacation or on a weekend, that's when I go on Twitter fights, and she tries to stop me, but she gave up a long time ago. But I thought of that one Saturday night, and it was, after President Trump's best week ever. No obstruction, no collusion. New York Times admits that Barack Obama did spy on his campaign. I now support reparations, and that is he should have 2 more years added for the time stolen by this corrupt attempted coup, and it's and failed coup. And so I was surprised within a few hours he retweeted it, and but I am dangerous when I get a little bored.
It's all right. I feel your wife's pain, because I try to monitor my husband's Twitter too. I'm sure the First Lady feels your pain too. So
Yeah.
we all try, but we know you guys are going to post whatever you want. Jerry, you're such an incredible person, and we're just so thankful for your support for the president, for the country, for freedom everywhere, and thank you so much for joining us here today.
Well, we appreciate all the sacrifices your family has made in the last 3 years to bring this country back to a place of sanity. And I know it's tough, and I hate to see you guys get beaten up so much, but I got your back whenever I can. Just let me know what I can do.
We know it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Laura.
While the left is suppressing the individual rights of conservatives, President Trump and Vice President Pence are defending the free speech rights of all Americans. That's the real news for today. I'm Laura Trump from Studio 45 at Trump Tower in New York City. Thanks for joining us, everybody.